Hello, and welcome to None of the Above. My name is Steve Nemerovski, and I'm your host. None of the Above is a political program where we focus on why the political system is as dysfunctional as it is, and why the system is as polarized as it is. And most importantly, on every show, we try and provide solutions. How we're going to make the system less dysfunctional, less polarized, and quite frankly, try and get some answers for once in a while. Maybe pass some legislation, solve some problems. That's what our show is about. We always say on our show, or maybe not on every show, but we say quite a bit that the highest purpose of a civic responsibility is running for office. It's getting involved, it's making a difference, it's putting your name on the ballot, it's winning that election, it's voting your seat on the floor of the legislature, it's making a difference. And we have a series that we've been running of candidates who have run for office before, and they talk about what they did when they ran for office, lessons learned, trying to get you interested in running for office. Today's the last in that series. So if you haven't seen the prior interviews, they're all on our YouTube channel at noneoftheabove.tv, noneoftheabove.tv. And we've got the last in the series today. Now, having said that, we're always looking for more people to interview. So if you ran for office before and you'd like to chat with us and get on TV and talk about what your election was like and what it was like to run for office, we'd love to hear from you. So you can reach out to us at the television station. At the credits at the end, we'll have contact information. But also, we're going to be putting our None of the Above website up and running soon. And you can find us on the None of the Above website at noneoftheabove.us. Our website is None of the Above at noneoftheabove.us. So find us through the television station, find us on our website. And if you want to run for office, or like I said, if you've run for office before and you want to talk about it, join us and love to have you. Following up on that theme of running for office, got a really fun interview today with the head of the Women's Candidate School at Yale University. I always tell you, I don't know where I get my topics from, but I was doing some reading about candidates and running for office and probably Googling, who knows. And there was this terrific story on this amazing school that's been run out of Yale for quite a while now. And we're going to talk to the director. Even though it's called the women's school, I think for the men in the audience, if you're interested, they'll let you in and you can run for office as well. In fact, who knows, maybe you'll be one man in a class of 50 candidates. So those odds aren't too bad. But we want you to run for office. We want you to think about running for office. And this is a great little niche that they've created where they'll actually train you how to run for office. So you don't have to go there thinking, I'm running as a Democrat, I'm running as a Republican. You can just go there with an open mind and think about how to run for office. It's a great opportunity, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun with that interview. And again, hopefully at the end of the interview, you want to raise your hand, jump in, get on a ballot. I don't think it's too late in every state in 2016. A lot of states, it may be too late. But particularly as an independent, you still may have a window. So listen to these interviews today, get excited, check out your state, get on the ballot. As you know, when we talk about dysfunction and polarization and how to avoid polarization and avoid dysfunction and fix the system, my personal solution is we need a third political party. And you obviously can't have an effective third political party if you don't have candidates. We've had interviews with people who have run for office, and they've talked about their experience in running for office. But we're going to do something today which I think is going to be totally fascinating and really gets to the essence of it all. We're going to talk about a program that teaches people how to run campaigns. It's the Women's Campaign School at Yale University. I ran across it recently, and the executive director, Patty Russo, was kind enough to offer to be our guest today. So this is the first program I ran across that's like it. I'm sure there's other ones out there, and maybe we'll get to do a few other interviews. But we can't have you talking about running for office without actually letting you know how to learn how to run for office. So this is our first foray, and our guest today, again, is Patty Russo. Patty, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. It's great to be here.
I don't even know how I stumbled on the Women's Campaign School at Yale, but there it was.
It was meant to be, Steve.
And you were so gracious to appear today. And then I'm doing research, and I learned that you've been around for 20-some years. Well, you've been around for 20-some years, and the school's been around for 20-some years. So
exactly. I've been around actually much longer than that, but I'll take the 20 years, Steve.
So tell us a little bit about your role and maybe how the school got started. Take us back 20-some years, and what was the impetus for this, and what was the idea they got it started?
The real impetus of it was the 1992, the Year of the Woman. You know, every 20 years we opt in to having a Year of the Woman. And in 1992, Steve, there were an inordinate number of women running for public office, especially women running for the House and the Senate in Congress. And so many of those women from throughout the country came to Connecticut to raise money. And I remember I was head of the Connecticut Commission on the Status of Women at the time, and in my spare time, I was doing fundraising for women running for public office. And I was so excited about the prospect of finally reaching political parity in Congress. And you know, the important part of that work that entire year was raising the money for women candidates to make sure that they had the resources available to them to run effective, successful campaigns. So 1992 came and went. It happened. Many of those women ran and won that year. And then so I felt, wow, we've leveled the playing field. We've broken through that glass ceiling, and really felt that we were on our way to parity. And then 1993 happened, and it was as if 1992 had never happened. There were very few women running, and so a group of women from Connecticut, led by Andre Brooks, who's our founder, said, I think that there are issues that women face when they run for public office that men never have to face, and I think we need to think about creating a campaign school for women to deal with not only the issues that all candidates deal with, but also to deal with issues that only women really deal with when they run. So that was the impetus of it. A group of Democratic and Republican women came together, and the goal was to start a nonprofit, which we are, at Yale Law School, which we are. We are issue neutral, and we are truly nonpartisan. We have 50% faculty, 50% board. We're still working on our students, and that we still have an inordinate number of Democratic women attending our school versus Republican women, but we are working on it. And so that was really the genesis. That's how it started, in that a group of women felt that women needed their own campaign school to deal with issues that men just never have to deal with.
And we're not going to, I don't think we're going to have time for this today, but I've spent a lot of time on my program talking about the need for women in office.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite comments goes back to a state rep, because I do a lot of work in Illinois, and one time she left the meeting and she just said, there's just too much testosterone in that room.
Well, I have to tell you, Steve, that I need to congratulate Colorado, because I think you're number one in terms of the number of women in public office in our entire country. So kudos to Colorado. But, you know, women, you know, we just believe that we are 50% of the population in our country, and really just feel that we need more representation in all levels of public office, on the state level, the local, and certainly in Congress. I like to say that our school is a role model for Congress, in that Republicans and Democratic women get together, work really hard together during that 5-day session, our 5-day intensive at Yale Law School. We check our egos at the door for the greater good, and women are collaborative in their leadership styles, Steve. So as a result, I think that we can be far more effective. I use Susan Collins, a Republican senator from Maine, and Patty Murray, a Democrat from Washington State, as my stellar examples of rock star women leaders in Congress. During the last sequester, they were both serving on the Finance Committee, where nothing substantive was happening. There was no real resolution towards ending the sequester. Well, Susan Collins went to Patty Murray and said, are you as tired as I am of going to meetings and nothing being accomplished? Will you stay up with me all night and put a draft of a plan together to end the sequester that we can at least bring to our committee tomorrow morning? And that's what they did. That plan, Steve, became the end to the sequester. That is the power and influence and fabulousness of women in public office, women in leadership. I really don't believe that if there were a majority of women in Congress leading, that we would be dealing with the nightmare that we are in Congress. Women just don't have time for this. We just don't.
There you go. And I kind of believe the same thing. That's what I said. We've talked a lot about that on the show. Now, before we start talking about the program, one of the things I'm interested in is the fact that this is a university-based program, because I'm aware of candidate schools, but they're usually operations run by the political parties. This one's at the Yale University. I don't know if it's the only one of its kind or there's other like it, but how did you come to marry a campaign program with the university?
Well, our founders felt that it was very important that we be affiliated with a university. And of course, being in Connecticut and being based in New Haven, the obvious choice was Yale University. And we were very grateful to Yale, has been a wonderful partner with us in promoting and embracing the school. Again, we will be celebrating our 22nd year at Yale Law School, seating our 22nd class the week of June 13th. And without their support and enthusiastic support for us, I doubt we would still be in existence. They've really been terrific.
So the essence of the program is, what is it, is a 5-day intensive study that you do each year, correct?
Yes, it's a 5-day intensive. So it's a boot camp format, if you're familiar with that, in that it's a 2-track program. It's for women who are interested in running for public office, which is the majority of the women who attend our school. But it's also for women who are interested in campaign management, because that's another area where we see very few women running political campaigns in our country. And so it's a 2-track program. 25% of our women are women of the world, Steve. So we have an international component to our program that you don't see elsewhere in other campaign schools throughout the country. I think that 25% brings a richness and texture to our school that you don't see elsewhere. I'll use the example of Ka Walla, who was a 2011 graduate of our school, president of the Cameroon People's Party. She was detained for a day from coming to our school because she had been kidnapped by her opponents. Now, I say to women of our country that we have many challenges facing, the barriers running for public office. That is not one of them yet. And so when Ka finally arrived, I said to her, you really need to take the podium and talk to your sister students about what it's like to literally risk your life every day, put your life on the line to make change in your world.
And that's an amazing story. So now in your curriculum, do you have a time for how to not get kidnapped on the way to school?
Well, not yet. But we do have all the components that women would need to run an effective, successful campaign. If your viewers go to wcsyale.org and check under our facts section of our website, there's a sample agenda of what exactly we cover that 5 days. It's very intense. It mimics the energy of a political campaign. So you're completely immersed with us morning, noon, and night. And then we have a case study that we have our students work on. We divide them up into small groups. And so at the end of each day, Steve, they go back to their hotels and work on the case study into the long hours of the night. On Friday of our school, we have a Republican and a Democratic judge come to critique each small group's presentation. So it's very, very intense. It's very comprehensive. And our students really leave feeling wonderfully prepared.
Now, I've run my share of campaigns, and I know that there's almost no way to describe it. So how do you break this down into pieces to even have these guys get their arms around what they're about to get themselves into?
Yes, well, the majority of the women who attend our school, Steve, have some background in politics. They've either run for public office and serving at the local level and want to know how to get to the state level or prepare for a run for Congress. Some of them have run local campaigns and again want to continue to climb up to be a campaign manager on the state level, etc. And so most of them have some background in politics, so it's not so much as a shock to the system, if you will, than someone who would have no background. And so they have some semblance of what to expect. So we break it down into topics, debate prep, how to put together an effective speech, campaign research, polling, media, fundraising. We spend half a day talking about fundraising because it's one of the, if not the number one barrier to women running, it's one of the top barriers for women running from public office is the effective, successful way of ability to fundraise.
We talk about barriers to running, and we had a segment on this before. I have found in my experience, some of the more interesting women candidates I've dealt with are the ones that are a little later in life where the kids have started to get out of the house. They may or may not have had a career, and they're kind of looking for a second start. And this is what they're finding. Do you get a lot of candidates like that, or you are a different demographic?
Well, that's how we started, Steve. Actually, it's interesting that you mentioned that because 20 years ago, when we started the school, that really was an accurate portrayal of the women who were coming to our school. Say 40s, early 40s, their children were launched or almost launched, and it was something that they had always wanted to do was run for public office or get more politically involved via campaign management. And so that was definitely the model 20 years ago. What has been exciting for us to see is now that demographic is changing dramatically. Now we're seeing women in their late 20s, early 30s coming to the school and planning to run soon, which is really, really a major shift. And so we're really, really excited about that. So many more women who come to our school are preparing for a run within the next 3 to 5 years.
And I think you mentioned, have some of these people run before and they realize they need to do it better?
Well, some of them have run before. They have won. Some of them have won their local races and are preparing for a statewide race or a congressional race. Others have run and lost and want to know exactly, to your point, how to run a more effective, successful campaign. What studies show is that when women run and lose and then run again, the chances are over 90% that they will win. The problem is that when women lose once in the past, they just don't run again. So we're just going to keep women inspired and motivated and trained to know and understand that they need to continue to take that second leap. And women come to running for public office, Steve, in a very different path than men. Men get up, they get dressed, they look in the mirror, and they say, "I'm going to run for the United States Senate today." Do they know that they're going to be able to raise $10 million in order to run an effective campaign? Sure, I've got plenty of friends. Of course, they're going to invest in me. Do they know every issue facing their state? No, but they'll hire consultants to help them learn what those key issues are. Are people going to vote for them? Of course they're going to vote for me. I'm a great guy. Whereas women have a very different path. It never occurs to a woman that she is qualified enough, prepared enough. I call it the Girl Scout syndrome, and I feel okay about saying that because I'm a Girl Scout. We never feel like we're prepared enough. We're never enough. And so what we do at the school is instill that confidence through our training so that by the Wednesday of our program, women know and understand that they are more than capable of running and winning.
It's interesting you mentioned the fact that women don't want to run twice. And again, I've had different parts of my life where I've been very active in campaign stuff. I've told almost any candidate I've worked with, don't get in this unless you're prepared to run twice. Don't ever start this only to run once.
Steve, you're way ahead of your time. The other issue is, that men don't need to be asked to run. Women still need to be asked to run, and not only asked once, but asked repeatedly. And what I like to say is, this isn't the prom. You don't need to be asked. Just step up and take the leap and say, I want to run, and this is why I want to run.
Now, I hadn't thought about this question in advance, but something you were talking about made me think about it. How many people take your program, and maybe on a percentage basis, and decide, you know what, I'm not going to run?
Well, I have to tell you that I think I do a pretty good job of inspiring as many women not to apply to the school than to apply to the school. I use a dear friend and a wonderful supporter of the school, Rosa DeLauro, a congresswoman from New Haven, who is such a dynamic, inspiring leader. And when women see her on TV being interviewed or speaking on the House floor, they think to themselves, wow, I want to do that. I want to be Rosa. But they have no idea all that it takes to be Rosa. And so oftentimes when women are interested in coming to the school, they call us. They'll email me, they'll call me, and they'll set up a time where I will convince them to run or not. This is the situation. I lay it out. No shades of gray, and I just tell them how hard it is. And if they still, they after a half an hour with me, Steve, they either are yes, they're more emphatic about their decision and they want to join us and they want to apply to the school, or they think, wow, what was I thinking? No, I have no interest in doing all that it would take to run for public office. And I think that those conversations are equal in value.
Now, you mentioned early on that you still are tending to get more women who perceive that they want to run as a Democratic candidate than a Republican candidate. Any explanation per se?
I think it's just the different cultures of the parties. I think for the Democratic Party, the Democrats have never found a training program they didn't love. Many of the women who come to our school have been to 3 or 4 other campaign schools, either one-day sessions or weekend workshops, and they just want more and more training. Whereas we see on the Republican side less of a culture of training. And so our whole focus has been bringing out and showcasing our Republican board members who are leaders in the political field to inspire Republican women to apply to our school.
Now, my show deals with dysfunction and polarization, and my own personal solution that I always bring people back to is the fact I think we need more third-party candidates and more independent candidates. Do you get a lot of people who want to run as an independent or third party, or you don't see much of that?
We really don't, Steve. Every once in a while we'll get a few unaffiliated candidates. We'll get a Green Party candidate, but not really. I think that, right now the majority of women out there believe that they need some semblance of a political party behind them to run for public office. So we haven't seen that that yet at our school, truly.
I got to figure out how to help you get there, because it seems to me if someone comes to your program and does well, they should maybe come to understand they may not need the party.
It's quite possible, but that's just not been the experience yet. I think still in the United States and our system, I still believe that people think that they need a political party behind them for credibility, for fundraising, for various different kinds of support. I don't think we're there yet, Steve.
So when you get this raw material on day 1, and you know where you want them to be on day 5, what are your toughest challenges in terms of, like, is it a wake-up call, like a slap in the face? What is it you're doing here to mold them, and what's your toughest challenge to get the results you want?
I think that what we do really well is we provide a very challenging, dynamic environment where women feel safe to take risks, quite frankly. We are very clear about everyone, one opinion, one vote, one rule, and that everyone has an equal voice and a responsibility to speak up. And so I think that really helps to level the playing field at the school. And I think just by virtue of the faculty that we have, the caliber of faculty that we have, these faculty being role models in and of themselves, elevates and lifts up all of our students.
Now, you started 20-some years ago, right out of nursery school, as we said earlier, and a lot's changed since then. We didn't have the internet when you got started, or you may have barely had the internet when you got started. We didn't have Citizens United. We didn't have so many other things. What are some of the bigger changes you've seen over these years in terms of how you've developed your curriculum?
Well, certainly, we're constantly tweaking our curriculum to make sure that we are current and forward-thinking. Certainly, social media has just exploded, and so again, we spend an inordinate amount of time at the school now at social media, whereas, to your point, 20 years ago, we never touched that. So that's just one example, and just the ways in which we deliver some of the components of the school have shifted dramatically over the years.
Now, another emphasis that I have in my third-party independent concoction is that people should start at lower levels of government, preferably at the state level. Are you saying, it seems like you have candidates a little more focused at the federal level? Or am I making that up?
You know what? They're kind of all over the place. I mean, many of them start at the local level. And to your point about women and balancing family life and work life, a lot of women initially start their careers in public office on the local level because you have more flexibility. Say you have to get home to a child, or you've got to be local for a variety of different reasons. It's a lot easier for women to find a place locally. And so many of them do start on the local level and are preparing for races on the state and federal levels.
Now, it is a nonpartisan program, but
Yes.
I'm envisioning that there's got to be some tough moments in here, because running as a candidate and running campaigns, at the end of the day, it is about your issue development and how you're going to present your issues. Do you get a lot of headbutting in the school in terms of how people are going to do that?
We really don't. We just agree to disagree agreeably. We really don't. I mean, I'm really proud of that, in that we will help women formulate opinions cogently and how to deliver them effectively and boldly. But we don't get into finger pointing at the school. And again, I think as a result of that, we just have not had those issues. And I'm really very proud of that, to say that. We just don't have those issues at our school.
So I don't know how you define success, but however you define success, what are your successes? And do you have maybe kind of a mentoring that goes on from people who have gotten out of your program, and people who are running for office always have a hotline to call or somewhere to go to for the answers?
Yes. Well, I define success as getting more women in the pipeline. We're getting more and more applications every year as a result of the reputation of the school. We've got more women who are coming to the school, as I mentioned earlier, Steve, who are planning a run now versus 10 years from now. I think that that's a success. I think the more women we can get engaged, and even civically engaged, to just make a commitment to at whatever level they feel comfortable, to get more politically involved, makes our world better, makes our country better, gets more women out there. I think we're great at supporting one another. We have a strong women's campaign school at Yale Sisterhood. We have a closed alumni Facebook page, and that's very active. We do have a mentoring program available to our graduates, Steve. So for instance, when I am traveling promoting the school, I will send a Facebook message out to the alumni page saying, I'm going to be in Cleveland. I'd love to see you. I want to hear good stories. I want to hear tough stories. And that's how we stay in touch. You know, again, thanks to social media, it's very easy to stay in touch. So I'm constantly getting phone calls and emails and, you know, Facebook messages from our graduates wanting to stay connected.
Well, sounds
So
like
that I think that's a really key piece, not only for women, but you know, for men as well. And I think men are really great at supporting each other. You know, we've talked forever about the Good Old Boys Network. Well, we're trying to establish the Good Old Girls Network at the Women's Campaign School at Yale. And I think that our graduates do feel very much supported and loved beyond their 5-day experience with us.
well, it sounds like an amazing program, and
It is.
for my viewers that want to be interested, or perhaps some of my viewers that want to think of running for office one day, yeah, you're holding up your card there. I see that. For
Yeah,
some of my
this is our
viewers who
brochure.
want to run for
This is
office
our-
today,
our-
how do they get in touch with you, and
Yeah.
what do they do?
Well, they can visit our website, which is wcsyale.org, and sign up for their e-newsletter. We do a number of one-day trainings and workshops throughout the country annually, and so hopefully we'll be coming to Colorado, and would love to do a training there for women who are interested in getting into the political pipeline. I just returned from Detroit, Michigan. It was the second year in a row that I did a one-day intensive, kind of the best of the Women's Campaign School at Yale at Detroit. And as a result of that, I've got a few applicants coming from Michigan. And so signing up for our e-newsletter is the easiest and most advantageous way to stay connected to us and have a sense of what upcoming activities we have. I just also wanted to mention that U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from New York is a proud graduate of the Women's Campaign School at Yale, and former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords of Arizona is not only a graduate of our school, but she served on our board for many years. So we're really proud of the caliber and stature and general wonderfulness of the women who have attended our program.
Well, you're a great ambassador for your program. You're a great
Well,
guest, and I thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All the best.
Bye.
Mark, how are you? Nice to see you today.
Good to see you, thank you.
And we always talk about voting being important, but you're doing something even more important. You're helping run the whole poll today, correct?
Yes, sir.
Good for you. And it takes a whole day. It's a lot of time. It's a big job.
From about 6 in the morning to about 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight.
Awesome. You're getting a great turnout.
Yes, we are.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I told you I have a television show in Colorado, and we talk about the political system. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst now, where do you rate our political system these days?
Okay. In the current state, I would rate it probably about an 8.
Pretty bad then.
Yes, sir.
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you could fix it, if you're in charge of the political system, what would make it better? How do we make this thing work?
Okay, I'd probably start with getting rid of Citizens United.
Okay.
I think that the system wasn't good before, but I think the chasing after big money by a small group of people, we're heading towards an oligarchy, I believe, and that is at the seat of the system, and I think a lot of the failure of cooperation between the executive branch and the congressional branch is exasperated because of the financing and the needs of the system itself.
Well, I've done a segment on Citizens United, and there's a lot of people like to see that one go away. So you're not alone.
Good.
Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you.
Great. Today.
I'm good, thank you.
And you voted? Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a great thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. So as I explained, our show back home, for me in Colorado, we talk about the political system and if it's working or not and how to fix it. So the main question I'm asking everyone today is on a scale of 1 to 10, if 10 is the worst, where you think our political system is these days?
Probably a 7.
7.
7 or 8.
So we're not doing too well.
No.
All right. So how would you fix it? How do we get us down to a 2? What do we need to do?
I guess elect a president, either Republican or Democrat who has a good sense and has good power.
Okay, so we need to find someone that maybe works for the other side a little and gets
Yeah.
things done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not have a polarized political
Not
system.
necessarily, no. Mm-mm.
And hopefully you voted today and you made a great choice, and that's where we'll end up one day,
I
right?
hope so.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, so when George is ready, he'll say we're ready.
Let me think first. I'm trying
Oh,
to think
sure,
what to
excellent.
say.
Well, some people want to have term limits. People want to have a new party. Some people want to have campaign finance fixed. Some people want to change the primary system. Some people want to change how the redistricting gets done, so that the people don't have in the districts that are.
So you want me to rate how I think the system is now?
Rate system with 10 being the worst, and then if you have any ideas on how to fix it, that's pretty simple.
Okay.
When you're ready, you're Albert.
Albert.
I'm Steve. Okay, George, when you're ready. All right, Albert, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
And Albert, you voted. You're a great citizen. Thank you.
Only in America is what they say.
Only in America. Yeah, and I'm from Chicago, and they vote more than once in Chicago, right? but now I live in Colorado, and I told you I have a television show, and we're doing a quick survey. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst possible, how do you rate our political system? How do you think it's working these days?
About a 9.
So we're not doing well in
Not
Europe.
doing well at all.
So how do we fix this? How do we make our system work better?
I'd like to see a 6-year term for presidency,
6-year term for president.
and across the board for all the senators and congressmen.
1 term, 6 years.
1 term. And then you have your 6 years to put your mark on history, and you do great things for our country, and then you move on,
Right off in the sunset.
right off the sunset.
Great answer. Thanks, Albert.
You're welcome.
Have a great evening.
You too.
By the way, that's a
Very
great
much.
thing to do.
Yeah.
So as I explained to you, I have a show back in Colorado about the political system, and what we're asking everybody is on a scale 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst possible, I guess. How do you think our political system's doing? Where do you rate our system?
Well,
these days?
honestly, I guess on that
It's
scale,
got to be honestly.
on that scale, I guess probably, honestly, I'd say a 4.
Do you think it's going pretty well?
I think it's. I mean, I think there's a lot of issues that have to be addressed, but I mean that's part of the system, and our country works to improve that. Our politicians work to improve that, and that's a part of the reason why we vote, to try and put better people in office.
So you're at a 4. Let's say you
Right.
wanted to get it down to a 2 or a 1. What could we do to make the system work better?
Well, I wish the parties would work better with each other. I wish they'd stop focusing on the little name or little number or letter beside their name, and more worry about the country and less about the
Yeah,
party.
less polarization, more compromise.
That's right. Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. And you?
And you voted. Congratulations. Thanks for
Thanks.
doing that. So we were talking, I was telling you about my TV show back in Colorado, where I talk about the political system and how to fix it. And my question to everybody today is, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst you could imagine, how do you rate our political system these days?
I don't think it's so swell. I think it's probably about a 6 or a 7.
6 or 7. So it's not working for you too well.
No, it isn't.
So
And
how do we fix it? How do we get back to making this thing work?
Well, I think first of all, we, the citizens, need to be more proactive and get out and vote. And we need to do our homework on the candidates and see how they have voted on different issues and not be swayed by the media. I think the media has killed us. I'm sorry.
Well, so you brought up the media, and I know that's no easy answer there, but how do we get better information to people so they can be more informed voters? How do we solve that part of it?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did. I think most importantly, the voters need to make it a priority. I think we need to be better citizens. I mean, I just drove in an hour from the lake to spend 30 seconds in there to vote because I thought it was important.
It's critical, and you did a great thing today. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for being with us, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, Jim, and who are you?
Francis.
Jim and Francis. All right, and George will tell us when he's ready. We're rolling, all right. So, Jim, welcome.
Thank you.
Francis, welcome.
Thank you.
And congratulations on voting today. Very
Yes.
important everybody votes. So I've explained to you I have this television show, and I'm asking everyone on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, how do you feel how our political system is working today?
I would say 7, with 10 being the worst.
10 being the worst? What do you think?
Oh, 10's being the worst?
10's the worst.
Okay, 6.
Okay, 6, 7-ish. So let's say we wanted to make it work. We're going to get down to a 2 or a 1. How do we make our system work? What do we do?
Well, I think for starters, I think our Congress needs to show more respect for one another and not to entrench themselves in fringe ideologies. They need to work together, find common ground that's in the best interest of our country as a whole. I mean, we're a very diverse country and with complicated issues out there, so we need people to work together.
Yeah. Stop being so polarized and solve problems.
Absolutely, because polarization does nothing but cause gridlock, and that's all that's been happening, it seems to me, for the last 15 years or so.
The middle works.
The middle works.
Stay in the middle.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks for voting.
We need a leader that'll pull us all together.
See, you didn't even want to do the interview. Now you're jumping here at the end.
I told her. She's a nurse. She should run for mayor.
All right. When you run for mayor, let us know.
Okay.
We'll do some more interviews.
Okay, very good.
All right. Thanks and have a great day.
Appreciate it, sir.
Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing well.
First time voter.
Yes, that's true.
Love it. Mom's proud, right?
Yes, I am.
First time voter. So I explained I have a show back home in Colorado. We talk about the political system working or not working, how to fix it. So the question for everybody today is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, how do you rate our political system?
4.
A 4. So you think it's working kind of well?
I think that there are levels of corruption due to our mass implementation of lobbying. I think that's unacceptable. It's bribery. And I think that one of the biggest problems we have are no term limits. A lack of term limits allows for companies to use lobbying to finance the campaigns of career politicians and to create this system of where they pay politicians to create regulations that cut out smaller businesses that are trying to grow and challenge these larger companies who have more money. And I think that's unacceptable. It restricts freedom and is worse for us as Americans because it means we have less access to better products and cheaper products because of less competition, and that means that the little guy doesn't win because they can't compete with the larger companies simply because they don't have enough money.
Did you rehearse for this today?
No, I think about it a lot though.
Thanks, Jack.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next interview is part of a series that we've been conducting over the past few months, which is part of our interest in having people run for office. That's the highest calling there is, in civic life as far as I'm concerned. And it's really what's going to make the difference as far as I'm concerned in getting our system back to where it needs to be, ending the dysfunction, ending the polarization. So what we're doing is we're interviewing people that run for office. We're trying to get you to think about running for office. And we're talking to them about what lessons they learned and why they jumped into this arena. Today we're going to be interviewing Andy Bakker. Andy, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, but before the show started, I said, you don't look like you're old enough to have run for office. So
25 years old. That's a great point because one of the reasons I ran is just to show young people, first of all, that it can be done, and second of all, how important it is.
Well, we spent a lot of time on our show, I don't know if you've seen any of the past segments, talking about millennials, talking about your generation and what a great difference millennials could make. So what caused you to decide to run for office in the first place?
Well, it is just that. It's millennial concerns, and I agree with you that running for office is the highest point in civic life. The system doesn't work if we don't have good people running. It's an opportunity to really express yourself and the things that are important to you. That was really important to me. And to be able to participate in the system. It's the system that we have, and to throw away the opportunities to make change within the system, I think is pretty foolish. All of those, and when the party came to me and asked me to run, I wanted to do it to help the party and to help my friends and the people who had stuck up for me before.
Okay, so you thought about running for office, you want to make a difference, you're one of these great generation of millennials who wants to make a difference. So you decided to run for office. Now you have to decide what office to run for. So what office did you run for? How did you make that particular decision?
So I ran for this Virginia House of Delegates, which is the lower body in the state legislature. And we made that decision for a couple of reasons. First of all, because that was what we had in front of us this past election cycle. It's what we call an off-off year. We had elections for the state Senate and the state House races. We, the Libertarian Party of Northern Virginia, like to focus on those state legislature races because it's a good mix of enough publicity, but still a small enough district that we can get around and we can cover it with the amount of volunteers that we have. It's kind of that just right bowl of porridge, and I think it worked out for us this year.
So just out of curiosity, for this particular district, how many people would you have been representing had you been elected? What's the size of the district?
Yeah, I'm not sure I can give you an exact population figure, but it was half of the city of Alexandria, Virginia, so DC suburb.
Okay, so you want to run for office, you made that decision. For a lot of reasons, you've decided that running for the assembly, state rep type of position is the way to go here. And now you have to make a decision of, you know, what's your banner going to be. And it sounds to me like you've already discussed running under the Libertarian banner. So how does that come about, your decision to run as a third-party candidate?
Yeah, absolutely. I ran under the Libertarian Party banner, and I had actually joined the party the year before. I had worked on campaigns for a long time, on old party campaigns, and I was getting really frustrated because I wasn't seeing any results. I felt like I was being, you know, I didn't have access like I wanted to. The doors weren't there. And here was this young guy running for Congress last year, Jeffrey Carson. And he was talking about ending foreign wars, and he was talking about ending the drug war. And I walked up and started shaking hands at an event, and these people wanted to talk to me, and they appreciated the fact that I was there. So I jumped in with both feet. I got very involved in the Carson campaign, and I'm glad that I did. Made a lot of friends and a lot of connections, and when those folks came to me and asked me to run, I was ready to do it for them. You know, I really appreciate what the Libertarian Party is doing and what they're pushing, and I was happy to be a part of that.
Well, I'm glad you had that great of an experience, and one of the things we're trying to accomplish in these interviews is to impart to people that maybe they should think of running for office and find people that have had a great experience. What are your kind of what are your 25-year-old words of wisdom to people who are thinking about running for office at any age? What went well for you, and maybe what didn't go well for you that you would do better another time, and what wisdom would you impart in that regard?
Yeah, and first of all, I would just say do it. It's not the, you know, huge step that sometimes it's made out to be. You can do it. You can do it without a lot of money. You can do it without a lot of people, you know, prying into your private life or anything like that. My biggest words of advice would be to get involved in campaigns before you run, and specifically to get involved with third-party or independent candidates before you run, because one of the biggest things that we deal with is effectively setting expectations. Knowing what to expect, knowing what and how to set our goals is very important. And I've seen a lot of people who either jump in without any political experience at all, or with political experience only with the old parties, that they're not ready to face the results, or they can't you know, make a single-digit showing as impressive as it is. So I think it's very important to get that experience beforehand, and then to just do it, and to realize that, you know, if I hadn't run, if somebody else hadn't run, there would be nothing, and every little bit that I can put into it is more than there would have been without me. And just to be thankful for that, and to forgive yourself and your volunteers for the things you might not be able to do.
Now, one of the things you talked about is expectations, and that's part of the argument I make of why we need third-party candidates and independents, that even if you have an expectation of a single-digit result, you're still marching towards that result, but you're still shaping the outcome of the election. You're still forcing the other side to maybe be more active in their positions and maybe just work a little harder once they get elected. Do you feel that is something you helped accomplish?
Absolutely, absolutely. I know for a fact that we pushed our opponents on the issues that we were talking about. I expect to see results of that in the next legislative session. And one of the things that we talk about a lot in the Libertarian Party, and I think translates well to other parties and independent candidates as well, is that our goal is to drive the conversation, to make sure that people are talking about our issues and that they have to face the concerns that we're worried about. That's the way that we make change. In addition to building the party and building the vote totals every year, we want to be driving that conversation.
Well, Andy, we've never met before, and my viewers know I've spent a lot of my life in politics and government, and I always encourage people that when they run once, to plan to run twice. I don't think it's ever, like you said, expectations. So I'm sure you were a great candidate. You got a great attitude, and my advice to you is hopefully you'll find another way to put your toe in the water and take a run at it. And one of these days you're going to wake up, you're going to see that all the groundwork you did early is going to lead to future success. So I wish you well in that regard.
I appreciate it, Stephen. I plan to run again.
Great.
And I really thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much, Andy.
Thank you.
Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed today's show. As always, our goal is to educate, and our goal is to entertain. You should have fun when you're on our show, and you should get educated. Remember, this is a solution-oriented show. We want you to think about solutions to the fact that our political system is so dysfunctional and it's so polarized. We want you to run for office, and that was kind of the theme of today's show. We had an interview with a former candidate talking about running for office, and then we had a great interview with Patty Russo talking about the Women's Candidate School at Yale. And I don't know exactly when this show is going to run. We tape all our shows. I think our show is going to run in late June of this year, and that's just about the time when the candidate school is finished up. We're going to see maybe if we can get a couple of the graduates to come on and talk about their program and what it was like to be a candidate in the school. So we've got some interviews about people who've run for office, and then we're going to have hopefully add a few interviews from people who want to run for office. And remember, we want you to run for office. So perhaps the homework assignment for today is to, not maybe to get you on the ballot right now, but take a couple baby steps. Look into what it would take to actually get on the ballot in your state. And our website, noneoftheabove.us, again, noneoftheabove.us, there's a whole section dedicated to what it takes to get on the ballot. So if you have any interest, or maybe you know someone that wants to run for office that has some interest, look us up, noneoftheabove.us, and we have a section where you can find out what it takes to run in your state. I've been thinking lately about the fact that Trump is going to be the Republican candidate, and I probably by the time this show runs, Bernie Sanders will not have been the Democratic candidate. At least that's what it seems like right now. But in either case, think about it. Although Trump had been on TV and he was a bit of a celebrity, and Bernie Sanders, was in the U.S. Senate, from a political perspective, they were fairly unknown. Yet look at the heights to which they've risen in their parties. So if you have a strong presence locally in your community, you're a business leader, you have a name in the community, you're respected, be the mini Trump. If you're on the conservative side of the ledger, be the mini Sanders if you're on the liberal side of the ledger, and get on the ballot. I think you see it can be done now. The internet's a great tool. So you've got our interviews, you've got a candidate school, you've got Trump and Sanders showing you the way. That's what we want you to do. We want you to get active. We want you to get on the ballot. Remember, if you are not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. Thank you.